There is a big difference between how Latinos who immigrate and their children understand their identity compared to those that continue living in Latin America. Migration changes a lot of things, including the way that we understand ourselves. The way that I experience identity has significantly changed since moving to Colombia. And now when I go to New York City, I find that the identity dynamics are extremely fatiguing. Everyone is constantly asking me, where are you from? And not just me, everyone. It's like, where are you from is the number one question in New York. The thing with this question is that it's only really asking one thing, and it has nothing to do with where you really are from. The question is meant for you to explain why you look the way that you do. In the US, especially in New York City, figuring out people's nationalities, people's identities is a professional sport. Everyone is a passport waiting to be stamped. We love to analyze the skin color, the physical features, the accent, the body language, even the things that people are wearing. And in a city like New York with 8.5 million people, this is a survival skill. The problem with it is that we treat identities like they are performances and our backgrounds like they are brands. We have certain expectations from groups of people depending on what they look like and what they sound like. And that is extremely exhausting. Hello, my name is Rebecca. I was born and raised in New York City by Colombian parents. I have been living in Medellín since 2018, and I currently do tours here. If you happen to be in Medellín and would like to walk the streets of the city with me, I have left all of the pertaining information in the description of this video. Now, let's get back to it. So I am going to talk about New York because New York is where I was born and raised, but I suspect that the things that I will be talking about today happen in any city that has a high influx of immigrants. So if anything of what I say resonates with you and you're not in New York City, please let me know in the comments. Like I was saying before, when I am in New York and people ask me where I am from, saying I am from Queens is not an acceptable answer. People will think that I am being obnoxious or that I am negando la patria, denying my heritage. I have to give them a full ancestral history. This is just how people relate to one another over there. I have experienced this my entire life. I have asked and I have answered, and I have my answer all queued up and ready to go. And there are layers to this answer. I adjust it. I add details or leave things out depending on who is asking and what I think they are expecting to hear. And I consider myself lucky because both of my parents are from Colombia, so my story is relatively short. In New York City, it is really important to people to have this information about you. Why? Because every interaction and every transaction is already pre-processed by the way that you look. People have already formed an idea about you before you even say hello. Like I said, guessing people's identities in New York is a professional sport. Most of them are just seeking validation of what they think, but if they can't figure it out, it's like a little nag inside. New York City is a great place, but it's also rough. Things move at about a mile a minute over there. Everyone is about that paper chase. It is hustle culture in its purest form. It is a city of immigrants. I really do believe that there are people from every country in the world living in New York City. And this changes the way that people behave and interact with one another. I think that we're all tribal in nature. We all want to gravitate towards people that are like us. We want to find ourselves in other people. But in New York City, the similarities that people look for within one another are nationality, language, food, and religion. And in New York City, with 8.5 million people, this tribalism just becomes really exhausting. Like I mentioned earlier, I think people in New York treat identities like performances and their backgrounds like brands. People really have expectations from groups of people like we do of products. It might sound crazy, but hear me out. Let's take Nike and Adidas, for example. Everyone is able to tell these brands apart, even without the logos. And each brand offers completely different products, but everybody knows that Air Maxes and Jordans belong to Nike and Sambas and Superstars belong to Adidas. They are easily recognizable and they each represent and convey a message. We would never confuse these two items. And in New York, we assume that people work the same way. We like to believe that people are easily recognizable, that identity is obvious, that we can look at someone and automatically know what they are. We think Colombians look a certain way, Ecuadorians act another way, Koreans sound one way, Thai people carry themselves in a particular way. So when someone doesn't match the expected look, it causes a lot of confusion, and you're going to get, oh wow, but you don't look like. And if you've experienced this, you know how awkward this moment is, because you just got sized up and you don't know what they have in their head about what you should look like. And even if you do know, it feels distancing. There's an even more uncomfortable version of this moment. Sometimes people will share their assumption with you, and if they guess incorrectly, they are going to quickly apologize and say that they didn't mean to offend. Why is it an offense to be confused with another culture? Like, what does that apology really mean? Are we ranking identities without saying it? Are some nationalities or backgrounds associated with something negative or with guilt? Because if being confused with another culture is offensive, then there's something more happening in the room that we're not talking about. I know that these things happen very subtly, and most of the time they are unintentional. It's just the way that things are in New York City. But these small moments create friction between communities. We're all participating in these little microaggressions without even realizing it. And that's the uncomfortable and exhausting part. Now, I am going to contrast that with life here in Colombia. Unless you're in a touristy area, no one in Colombia is asking you where you are from. Identity politics work very differently in Colombia and Latin America for many different reasons, and maybe I will make a reflection on that sometime in the future. But it basically boils down to a simple idea. Most people out here are not representing nationality because everyone, or a great majority of the people living in Colombia, are Colombian. I really didn't understand how identity dynamics worked in the United States until I moved to Colombia. And that's because when I initially got here, I tried to translate all of my behaviors from the US over to Colombia, and I quickly learned that things operate completely different here. I had to distance myself from all of those behaviors to really understand how things worked in the United States and in Colombia. And I had an early experience here in Colombia that would clue me into how different identity politics work. I arrived in 2018. It was a World Cup year, and I was extremely excited to watch a Colombian match in Colombia. I thought that if it was really exciting to watch a Colombian match in the United States, then it was going to be something out of this world out here. Nope, I remember feeling that it was the most boring experience ever. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun to watch the match here in Colombia. Everyone wears their jersey, we all celebrate when the team scores, fireworks go off. If there's a foul against the team, everyone gets upset and protests. It's fun, but it is very different from my experiences in the United States. And that's because when people gather in the United States to watch a game, it is much more than the game. It is about representation. It becomes a performance. Who's going to show up louder? Who's going to represent harder, them or us? The jersey isn't just a jersey. It's a flag. It is, I am here. I am showing up. I am representing. And we layer on nostalgia to that. For many immigrants, these games aren't just the games. It's a moment to be back home, even if it's just for a couple of hours. They're closer to their family, and they're closer to that person that they were prior to immigrating. And what's even more interesting is that people that weren't even born in Colombia feel this energy. We inherit the nostalgia, we inherit the longing, we inherit all of these stories that our parents told us. So when events like the World Cup happen, there's a lot of things happening. There's pride, there's memory, there's nostalgia, there's identity. And so that's what makes it so euphoric in the United States. It's all of this emotion, and there's a stage to perform it. Like anyone who immigrates, my relationship with myself has changed, especially the way that I view identity. I don't relate to Colombia the same way that I did when I was in New York. There are other layers of my identity that began to matter more. So yeah, if there's anything of what I said that resonates with you, I would love to hear it in the comments, but that is all I have for now, and I will see you in the next one.